Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a growing threat for a very large winter storm. Now, yes, we just did get done with one. You can see this is the snowfall footprint that this system dropped. You can see these are individual snowfall reports. This system was definitely a an interesting one. It was a monster. It was a massive one indeed. We don't know whether or not this next one is going to be as easy to kind of see far out. If you recall, this particular one that we just had, we've been tracking for probably a week before it occurred. This one, if it does occur, it's coming this weekend, and we're gonna have less time to kind of prepare for it. It's a system that could either vanish within 1 or 2 days from the models, or it could intensify into again another monster storm. So there's a lot of details I want to go over, a lot of things I want to clarify, and yeah, show you where this snow threat is. But before we do that, I do want to quickly say that if you are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I talk about the weather. I'm a hobbyist. I'm an enthusiast. I like talking about the weather, and I just like giving people forecasts to my best of my ability, using model data, the National Weather Service, and yeah, we have a community of people that like the weather. So if you'd like to join that, consider subscribing, consider liking the button or hitting the like button. Obviously, do this once you know whether or not this is a suitable channel for your liking. I just always forget to say this at the end of the video, which is why I say it at the beginning. And if you have any comments or concerns, leave them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, let's start. Let's start talking about the system, man. Notice that first off, I want to look at some of these snowfall reports, right? Because yesterday, usually I make these videos where I analyze the snowfall reports and kind of the stuff from the previous system the day after. But yesterday I didn't upload a video, so I want to do that today, just briefly. Trust me, I will. I will get to that storm potential in just a second. But do notice that, look at that. Portions of Buffalo, really, I think that's where some of the highest amounts of snow fell. There were, in fact, I think the two highest, though, were in Ohio. You can see 27 and 20, yeah, 27 and 25 inches. But a lot of the ones in the top kind of 10 are from New York. They're not as numerous in Ohio. It seemed to be like a small little pocket there. But yeah, you can see widespread 2 feet plus. So that definitely was a very big snowstorm for those areas. Where it did underperform, I would say probably the South, the biggest, I guess, area where it underperformed. But again, that was not a surprise that it underperformed and overperformed in various areas, because as I mentioned, this thing was one giant curveball. I've been saying that, I think, since this thing was still in Iowa. When I saw some of the signs of this characteristics of the storm, notice Nashville really just got missed. I mean, they literally didn't get really anything. But notice portions of southern central Mississippi got almost a foot of snow in some of these areas. So that was definitely a surprise. Northern Alabama, Georgia didn't pick up too much snow for some areas. Some other ones got 4, 5, 6 inches, which was quite a big event. Notice Charleston got a bit on the shorter side of the snowfall, around 7, 8 inches, which is, still a decent snowfall, just not as much as they were expecting. Pittsburgh pretty much got as forecasted. It didn't really overperform, just really performed as forecasted. Coastal areas didn't get much, but that was as expected. They weren't supposed to. There was a bit less snow across central Pennsylvania here, and it kind of, I thought there'd be a bit more, but there were winter weather advisories issued, not storm warnings. And yeah, mainly across Ohio, it really overperformed. Areas like Cleveland, Erie, and whatnot got a lot of snow out of this. So this thing definitely was a massive storm. And it was funny because I got comments about the previous storm, and some people that got missed by kind of the heaviest of the snow and got a few inches less than forecasted were like, this thing was definitely not a massive storm. It was overhyped and whatnot. And then I get people, from like that received like 30 inches of snow, and they're like, wow, this system was, way more massive than I thought it was going to be. And it's just kind of funny how people, if you don't have a map like this to look at from perspective, if you live in one location in the South, you may think the system was a bust or whatnot. But if you live in just northeast of Cleveland and you saw 27 inches, you think that this is a historic storm. So, it's all about perspective. But yes, the system was advertised as a massive storm, and I'm glad I did that, as it did turn out to be that. Let's start talking now about this new system, right? So I know some of you may have been bored at this point from what we have been talking about, the old storm, but let's see this new one. So the GFS model, just to let you know, isn't supportive of this nor'easter, and yes, that's kind of a spoiler. It would be kind of a nor'easter. They're not supportive of it, these models, and let me just show you. We're to see if you could see where this would be developing. So this is where the other models develop a storm out of this, and this is again this upcoming late Friday into Saturday, so not not far out at all. And notice that by our 70 hours out into the future, this thing's already occurring, and a lot of models, including ensembles of even the GFS itself, show a big storm and a lot of snow for Carolina, South Carolina, right, Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, kind of up and along the coast. It's more of a mid-Atlantic system than the Northeast, really, with this one, it seems. If it were to occur, notice there could be some icing go further south. So this thing, again, an impactful storm. Based off looking at the GFS, you may not even think there's a threat for a storm, though. And I do want to say that the pattern in the future does look very cold and still relatively active. So even if that doesn't occur, I guess no despair if you're a winter weather lover or just in general for wherever you live. It's always fun to track systems even if you don't get them. And I want to show you now a different model, a different little perspective, the European model. So let me track this through. Again, I'm just ignoring any event. There is a clipper that will be occurring this upcoming, really today into tomorrow, where that will definitely be dropping snow, and there's a lot more confidence in that occurring than this nor'easter potential. I do also want to say that there will be a brief band of snow into Kentucky, Tennessee, potentially. The models are struggling how to handle that precisely, but if you live across kind of the Virginia area, southern Ohio, Tennessee, even Nashville maybe, I guess Louisville, Lexington, probably more of Lexington area, you could be seeing a bit of snow on Thursday. Some models show several inches, some just show a little dusting potential, so we'll have to monitor that. But basically, that's not the storm. It's kind of on the southern end of this cold front that brings that little band of snow, develops a low pressure, and we have a lot of cold air up here. So, there will be definitely cold air. And what we start seeing is the system developing, and you can see that the European model is more excited about it. By Friday in the afternoon, it's already snowing across North Carolina, Virginia, southern Delaware, right? So again, a lot of locations of the coastal areas that didn't get hit with snow this time could get it. Coastal Virginia, coastal Jersey, coastal, Long Island maybe. You're gonna notice how it doesn't go all the way up the northeast coast. It kind of just skedaddles. But this thing definitely is a weaker scenario, this particular run, but it's there, and it's more aggressive than a GFS. And if we were to take a look at the snowfall totals, this still doesn't look as full as some of the what the other models show. And I'll show you that in just a second, but there could be another I'll show you the ensembles, and basically what I'm trying to say is that if you were just to take a look at the three global models, the European, GFS, and Canadian, you would really be thinking that there's no big threat for a storm, but this is still underplaying some of the mounts. I would say definitely the European shows quite a bit. For a decent area, you could see, obviously, lighter snows back here, still snow. And then some bring this up into the northeast, so that would affect more cities. Some don't, like the European. But notice southern New Jersey, Delaware, especially right there, the Chesapeake kind of Bay, a bit south right there into more of the northern Outer Banks, Virginia, 15 over a foot of snow potentially, and that's assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which I assume is relatively accurate for this scenario. Canadian, more on the Canadians or on the GFS side, it does show a little band of snow on Thursday, which by the way, the Canadian definitely shows that one the strongest on Thursday. The one across Ohio, you could see Kentucky, Virginia, but then that nor'easter, look, it just clips the Outer Banks. I mean, that's still a lot of snow, for these small amount of areas here, but we're very localized and also not that impressive in terms of the snow amounts. So, with that being said, let's take a glance at some other models, because this is where things start getting interesting. So this is what I have pulled up here. You may be interested to what this is. You may be a bit overwhelmed as well. This is EPS members. So these are a bunch of European models that form the European family. Right? There's 51 of them. It's quite a bit, and that's why it's such a good tool, because if you have uncertainty and you want to see what more data shows, you have to take a look at this, right? And if 40 out of 50 show winter storm, but the European itself doesn't, it's probably only a matter of time before the European starts showing a storm, right? And you got to see the trend in which way are they favoring it. Are there less and less showing it, more and more? And I have right now snowfall out to 5 days, so this is into Sunday of this upcoming week. So most of that storm, if it were to occur, would occur by this time frame. Notice, look at these ensembles. I'm just going to click through a bunch. This first one shows a winter storm. Again, more of that European scenario, right? And look at this one. Shows a scenario that is all along the northeast shore. This thing would be a monster if this were to occur. That is a definite that is a beast with that ensemble model. Look at this one. Look at this one further off coast. This one still shows snow, just again a bit lighter. Notice that almost all of these show scenarios that are stronger than what the GFS or Canadian showed. At the weakest, so far, that would be just kind of what the European showed, which is still a nasty storm right there. This is, obviously a bit more of a weaker scenario. This one doesn't advertise a storm, but then for every one that doesn't advertise, I'd say there's like 10 that do. So, and you can see some just show ridiculous amounts. Some show quite a bit less. Some show it a bit offshore. But the theme is that, again, a lot of them, I mean, there hasn't been a single, there has been one that didn't show a snowstorm. Right there. Otherwise, they've all shown a system. I guess you could count that as not seeing a snowstorm because it's barely any snow. Look at that one, a bit further inland. This one showing not a big system in terms of snowfall, but, I mean, super potent amounts for North Carolina and Virginia. Great. Then, look at this one, massive amounts. This one, lighter amounts. This one, also lighter, but still potent in some areas. But you can see that compared to what the GFS showed, which was just a little bit of snow, nothing too extreme. Most of these models are showing a lot more than that. And you can see boom, boom. As I push this forward, we still see a lot of models that are excited. Now, obviously, there are some that aren't. It's now, for no reason that the GFS isn't showing a system. There's a lot of, there's a lack of confidence, but I mean, there's quite a bit that show these big scenarios. And I would say that there's quite a bit more than they're used to. And that's the thing. And now I want to show you EPS. So this is a good average look. You just get one chart, and you can see all what the snowfall for the next several days of what all the models think will happen. So you can see this is what they favor. Some of them, a lot of them actually put the bullseye again around Virginia, southern kind of Delaware, southern Maryland, the DC area, and then they bring a bit of it up into the New York area, New York City, Boston, just not as much. Again, favoring these areas. And now let's take a look at previous model runs. So this is the set of data from today. Let's take a look at the one from yesterday. You could see, or it's from today at midnight, so pretty much yesterday. If the image looks different, that is because it is different. Notice this is the one that's the most current. This is the one from today at midnight, or yesterday at midnight. Where is it? There we go. But notice how it was less concentrated, those higher amounts, and it was more widespread. And that's because the models were a bit more unconfident. Some models were showing it further north, further south, so you could assume that the models have kind of gained confidence if the area of snow is smaller. Now, this is what some of the models showed yesterday at the same time. Now, a lot of this snow up here is from that system that occurred, the one we were just dealing with. Those are remnants of it. So ignore that up here. But a lot of this is, again, that snowstorm that the models are still unconfident about. So again, you can see that the area has been narrowed down still. It is definitely not decreasing in those snowfall amounts. So that's why I don't think that just looking at the Canadian, European, and GFS is accurate and assuming that they're kind of having a good handle on it. I mean, the European is pretty aggressive with it. If I were to go back and show you, remind you of the snowfall totals that the European model showing, they were pretty strong, albeit for a smaller area, and it kept it off coast. Now, that's just one family of models. And again, I could show you a bunch more individual ones, but let's take a look at a different family. It's called the GEFS. So I'm not going to show you individual ones, but I'll show you the same thing that I did with the EPS. I'll show you the average look of what they all think. So this is what all the models from the GFS family I think averaged out. So again, you can see that some try pushing it up towards the northeast, but overall, lighter amounts as you go north and heavy amounts across North Carolina, and especially, North Carolina. There's the one thing with the GFS models that is different compared to the European is that a lot of the snow here is across the Carolinas, further south. The European, if you recall, kept it more to the north, the European models, across Virginia. So you can see that they still show a system. It's just a bit further to the south, and again, more aggressive on average than what the GFS shows by itself. And you can see that the further out you go, these models are kind of useless because they just start showing snow in their own various locations. So this is only useful for like when a system is just a bit just a little bit away and not like too super far. But I guess you could use this to say which regions are favored to see snow. But this definitely is looking more and more likely to produce a nasty system. Now I also want to show you some more models because I feel like even you may not be convinced by just looking at those ensembles, especially if you don't understand some of that stuff, which isn't because you're not able to. It's just honestly some of that stuff is confusing, maybe the way I present it. But let's take a look at another model, UK model, United Kingdom. It's from across, in London. They show this. Notice what it shows. shows a system, a decent one, except the snow's across South Carolina, Atlanta. I mean, really far to the south. Savannah potentially picking up some snow. I don't think this is a likely scenario, but you can see that it shows a system of its own variation. I could show you some high-res models like the NAM. It does start showing this system forming at this time frame, but because it only goes out to 84 hours, it's limited. But you can see right there, it shows snow into Georgia, into Alabama, a lot of ice. What it does further up with it, it's too early to tell, and it doesn't show us. RDPS, Canadian high-res, you can see that the high-res models are generally favoring this system here. They're showing a decent low, a lot of moisture, a lot of snow, and the cold air is plentiful, so there's no reason for this not to be a acceptable scenario. And I could show you, yeah, that's basically it from the models that go out to 84 hours. It really isn't that much. And I already did show you a lot of the ensembles. Again, we'll just have to wait and see how these models react. I could show you the German one, actually. You could see this one is pretty in line with, I guess, what the GFS shows. Let's see right here, lighter amounts of snow, though. Again, even though they're lighter, I guess, for a smaller portion of the country, or I should say, even though it affects a smaller portion of the country, they're pretty heavy in some areas. North Carolina, Virginia, and Delaware, you could see pick up, I mean, well over 6 to 10 inches. While a model like the RDPS, you can see it's clearly snowing across Georgia, it's clearly snowing across the south, and you'd assume that there would be some decent snow by the time this thing pulls away. Whether or not it even hits the northeast or kind of pulls out before, we'll have to wait and see. And at this point, that's basically all I can show you. I do want to quickly go over one thing though, and that is that snow band that could be occurring across Kentucky and that Mid-Atlantic on Thursday, because that is not far away, and I could show you some more refined weather models for that. Notice that we do see an area of cold air, a little bit of moisture right here. And again, I want to say that sometimes these little bands go over, they overperform. You get a scenario like, look at the RAP, what this model shows, in a very aggressive scenario for Kentucky, Ohio, Virginia. Even, if you're just forecasted 1 to 2 inches, this may not cover that. You could get a lot more snow in a short amount of period of time from such a powerful band of snow. And look, this stretches all the way into the northeast and then it exits. They're notorious for sometimes overproducing these little bands. And again, that's part of a much larger system that's, again, could bring that snow potential up towards the north. Look, let's see some of that snowfall amount. Again, I'll warn you, some of these are probably a bit higher than I think will actually occur, but 3 to 6 inches, especially in those higher concentrated and upper elevated areas. I mean, heck, honestly, if this plans out just the way this model shows it, cities like Charleston might end up seeing more snow than they got from that big storm from this little band. And again, that's not even the big system that we're kind of talking about. And look, they extend that into the northeast. If the NAM, to take a look at the NAM model, the ones I showed you earlier for that big one, it also shows decent amounts. The RDPS, the Canadian high-res, also shows a decent band just a bit further towards the south and west. So, this is definitely a interesting thing to watch for. And of course, that big system following this thing, which is even more interesting. So stay tuned, guys. But overall, I would say that the threat is growing. If you're, trying to think what I'm thinking right now and trying to, I guess, if you just want me, in my opinion, on this system, I think that there will be a storm. But at this point, I am favoring like a scenario like the GFS. Because mainly the European is definitely also, I think, plausible, but based on how the high res are showing that snow starting off to the south, it's probably going to snow across, North Carolina, Virginia for sure. Whether or not it reaches all the way to the northeast is a bit more questionable, but overall, I think the system will be occurring, and that's the big question for now. I do apologize, you do hear my phone ringing, but I was gonna wrap this video up anyway, so I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Stay tuned. Nice little goodbye from the phone.